Okay, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be really quick. I just wanted to introduce you to my product photography setup, and this is generally what I'm using. I'm using primarily my A7R IV. Now, right now I am filming with the A7 IV, which is amazing for video and photo. It's a great hybrid camera, but when I'm really looking for the resolution, obviously the R line is going to be where things are. I think it's 62 megapixels, which is complete overkill, but again, with that resolution gives you all the availability to crop. Now, a lot of people were asking me, and I had some questions going back and forth, what lens am I using for all my product photography? And to be honest with you, a lot of times I'll either use the 35mm 1.4. I will use that at times. I use that for video as well. And I will also use sometimes an 85 and stand a little bit farther away from the camera, not the camera, the subject rather, and just give myself a different type of look with some depth of field. But primarily I am using this lens right here. This is the 50mm macro, the FE 50mm 2.8. Now, people asked me, like, 50mm macro, is it a Sony lens? I don't know that a lot of people don't really know about this lens. I find that kind of hard to believe because 50s are very popular. Maybe not so much for macro, but I've always enjoyed a 50mm macro, even when I shot Canon. Actually, when I shot the Canon, I was shooting the 35mm macro, and I loved it for wedding photography and ring shots. And, you know, with the Sony, I love 50mm. I love the focal length. I feel like it's a really strong, workable focal length, especially in tighter areas. I feel like it gives you a nice rendition of the subject that you're trying to fit in. I feel like 90 sometimes, if you're trying to crowd the atmosphere, if you're trying to crowd the scene with, you know, peripherals and, you know, things around your items, 90 sometimes could be a little too tight. So I really enjoy 50. I love the way it looks. Obviously, you've been seeing examples throughout this video here of a 50mm macro lens. But again, overall, I really do enjoy this lens. And I know I'm kind of being redundant here, but, you know, it is a smaller type lens. It is, I believe it is metal or aluminum, but it's not going to feel like a G lens, okay? It is going to feel on the cheaper side. You know, if you're trying to match it up next to a G lens, it is going to look a little different, feel a little different. But overall, it is still very nice. You do have a limiter on the side here. You might be able to see that if I focus that out for you. You do have a limiter here where you can, let me switch that around. I'm looking at this reverse with my new setup here. But you do have a limiter here, a focus limiter. You do have a multifunction button that you can use, and you can use either manual focus or autofocus. And you will notice that if you do focus this out, it does have a long focus pull, but that's very indicative of a lot of macro lenses. But you can see as I'm focusing this out right here, you can see the scales, and you'll notice, is that the right way? I think that's the right way. Again, I'm looking at this reverse, but you can see you could do 1:4, 1:2, 1:1.4, and 1:1 macro. So it is a really strong lens. It is a very powerful lens when it comes to you know, usability. I really enjoy it. It's very sharp. You know, again, I don't know that I could get any sharper. I really like the way it renders out photos. If you like my product photos, this is what I'm using. This is my setup. Normally I'll use this with a Sony JJC trigger. So like I said, I'll use this with a Sony JJC trigger. It's not really a Sony trigger, but it's a trigger for a Sony. And I chose to do the wired triggers. Now, a lot of people will say, you know, well, you have all these apps, and you have the Sony app, and you have the display app, or the Monitor Plus app, or what. I've tried them all. There's always an issue. There's always a connectivity issue. The resolution is not that great when it comes to you know, the live feed through Bluetooth. Sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't. There's a lag. And I just found it more cumbersome than it is usable. And it would just slow me up. This, I absolutely love it, okay? It's not a huge long cable. I mean, it's, you know, you're not going to really see the length on here, but the video, but it's a USB or an HDMI, mini HDMI, which plugs into the side of your camera. I don't know if that'll focus out, but you guys know which one it is. It's the, you know, the one that everybody can't stand. And it's the same one on this side. This comes off as well. You can probably see it there. This plugs into the side of your camera, and you have, you know, you have your trigger. You can half press this for focus. You can lock it down to consecutive. You can get your grid lines. You could, if you have a power zoom lens, you could do forward and telephoto and wide, and you have a record button as well for video. So, and again, these are cheap. I think that this was like $25 on Amazon. Again, JJC trigger. A lot of people ask me. I don't make it any more complicated than it has to be. If you don't have a trigger, another way to, you know, make sure that you're getting sharp photos with product photography is to use a timer. But I wouldn't use like the 3-second timer, because you're still going to get some tripod shake, some camera shake. I would do 10 seconds. And again, you know, if you have the time, it's not a problem, but this solves that problem for $25, and you can focus out and you can recompose and things like that. And, you know, it's just a simple solution. It does take, does it take a battery? I don't even think it takes a battery, guys. No, because it's powered through the USB. So it doesn't even take a battery. You just plug it in, and it's very simple and cheap. It comes with this little clamp here, where if you want to clamp this to, like, you know, your tripod or your post or whatever, so you don't lose it, or you just have a way to keep it out of the way from dangling around, you can do that as well. But that's my setup, okay? I use the A7R, okay? The beautiful, amazing, powerful, high-resolution A7R Sony, and the Macro FE 2.8, which everybody doesn't seem to know exists. And then I use the JJC remote trigger to give me that, you know, hands off for the macro shots. All right, guys, hope you liked this short little video. This is how I do things. Maybe I'll start doing a series on these about how I do certain things, but hopefully you enjoyed and it wasn't too long. Please like and subscribe as always, and thank you for your support. Appreciate it. See ya.